Okay, this is a continuation of the Pigs and Azle, Texas saga. In 2008, I served these Azle pigs with a notice and demand. See the Pigs and Azle, Texas video part 1. I told them that I accept their oath. I told them that if they think they're representing me, they're fired. I told them I'm not one of their U.S. citizen slaves. I told them that I can be a state citizen without being one of their U.S. citizen slaves. I told them there's no such thing as a driver's license under Texas law, and I told them other things as well. These Azle Satanist pigs then assaulted me earlier this year, falsely imprisoned me, and gave me one of their satanic citations under their ecclesiastical so-called law. See the Azle Pigs and Azle Texas videos 1 and 2. This is taken from Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition. A citation is a summons to appear, applied particularly to process in the spiritual court. The ecclesiastical courts can proceed according to the course of civil and canon laws by citation and libel. It's all a kangaroo court. Citation, a summons to appear, applied particularly to process in the spiritual court. Ecclesiastical courts proceed according to the course of civil and canon laws by citation and libel. Okay, so they're assaulting me with their Vatican Satanic Canon Law. That's exactly what they do. That's the Jacob A. New Law Dictionary. This is Black's Law Dictionary, 2nd edition. Citation, this is also the name of the process used in English ecclesiastical probate and divorce courts. And that's actually a cite from Blackstone's commentaries, and that's cited in Black's Law Dictionary, 2nd edition. And then in Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1897 edition, citation in the ecclesiastical law. The citation is the beginning and foundation of the whole clause. The process issued in courts of probate and admiralty courts. It's also used, and so they're assaulting me with their DC codes. It's usually the original process and the proceeding. In that respect, it's analogous to the writ of capias, okay? So that's exactly what it's all about. It's a capias. That's what they'll issue in their after they have their show trial. They'll issue a capias. They'll create a so-called debt, and then they'll proceed to try and assault me with their so-called debt. This is, Bouvier's Law Dictionary. I served on Vocal, the liar, and the kangaroo court, a so-called court, a 32-page special appearance challenge to jurisdiction that included a counterclaim and a notice of void judgment. And that was based on the document that I served on them in 2008. I challenged jurisdiction. I told them that everything they do is a fraud. I told them they have no immunity and were acting in their private capacity. I told them that any orders are fraud and a nullity, and Brutum Pullman, see the void judgments video. They received their registered mail on Thursday, the 25th of February. They sent their document on the 29th of February. They did not prove jurisdiction. They didn't even attempt to prove jurisdiction. They engaged in fraud by criminally converting my appellation and my postal address. These Pigs and Azle, see the Pigs and Azle, Texas videos, parts 1 and 2. The Satanist clerk masquerading as a judge entered a plea for their fraudulently created U.S. citizen, Sesticate Trust. The Satanist clerk masquerading the bought and paid for Satanist clerk masquerading as a judge sent a show trial notification on the 21st of March. The Satanist criminally converted the appellation of the postal address. Oh, by the way, let's go back here. When they went and did this, I went and rejected their offer of contract, and that's found in the Pigs and Azle, Texas video part 2. Anyways, so back to this. The Satanists criminally converted the appellation and the postal address. The Satanists are claiming that it's a court of record, and we'll go through that. I'll show you. The Satanists are threatening me with one of their void judgments, the bought and paid for clerk. And this is the document that they sent. See, it says City of Azle Municipal Court of Record, defendant's trial notification, and they criminally converted my proper appellation and my postal address with their fraudulent zip code and the all block capital letters under their satanic Roman law. And then it's based on a statute, one of their DC statutes for speeding. And so And sir, that's their corporate seal, their so-called court of record, and the show trial, will be before a bought and paid for clerk masquerading as a judge. There you go. There's what it says. And then they want to assault me with a warrant, a so-called warrant, which is a void judgment, and it's brutum fulmen. Okay, so let's keep going here, people. And continue to assault me with their satanic uniform commercial code under their Unidroit Treaty. See the Unidroit video. Municipal corporations are territorial. This is Downs versus Bidwell, U.S. Supreme Court. The constitutionally has undoubtedly conferred on Congress the right to create such municipal organizations as it may deem best for all the territories of the United States. Okay, so they're territorial. And this is also Downs and Bidwell. There's no Article 3 courts in the territories, eliminating then from the opinions of this court all expressions unnecessary to the disposition of the particular case, and gleaning therefrom the exact point decided in each, the following propositions may be considered as established. Number one, that the District of Columbia and the territories are not states within the judicial clause of the Constitution, giving jurisdiction in cases between citizens of different states. Okay, so the point being is that Article 3 does not apply to the District of Columbia and the territories, that the territories are not within the Constitution, clause of the Constitution providing for the creation of the Supreme Court and such inferior courts as Congress may seem fit to establish. Okay, so there are no courts in the territories and the District of Columbia. They're kangaroo courts. It's a commercial transaction. They're nothing but a bunch of Satanists, is what they are. That's in Downs versus Bell. This is National Mutual Insurance Company of the District of Columbia versus Tidewater Transfer Company, another U.S. Supreme Court case, people. All states are territories for U.S. citizens, and I don't care where they're, which state they're in. If it's a U.S. citizen, if they can fabricate evidence of that slave, then you don't get a court. Okay, that's what it comes down to. You don't get a court. We therefore decline to overrule the opinion of Chief Justice Marshall. We hold that the District of Columbia is not a state within Article 3 of the Constitution. In other words, cases between citizens of the district and those of the state were not included in the catalog of controversies over which Congress could get jurisdiction to the federal courts by virtue of Article 3. In other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of the Washington District of Columbia, and through their plenary power, that's military dictatorship, people, nationally covers those citizens, even in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. And this is codified. They even codified it at 26 United States Code Section 770139, or it's 7408C, and I'm not sure which one it is. It was originally at one of those, and now it's at another one. If any citizen or resident of the United States does not reside in and is not found in any of the United States judicial districts, such citizen or resident shall be treated as residing in the District of Columbia for purposes of provisions of this title to A, jurisdiction of the courts, or B, enforcement of the summons. These Satanist pigs and Azle are assaulting me with their DC codes, and that's exactly, this is proof right here. It's under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. This is the DC codes. Chapter 231, to enact, codify, revise, amend laws remaining to the judiciary, which is, this is not, this is still a DC code, but this is the Judicial Code 1911 is what it is. And the important part here is Section 9, which is located at 36 Stat 1088. The district courts, as courts of admiralty and as courts of equity, shall be deemed always open for the purpose of any pleading. So what they're saying is that the federal district courts are only in D.C. and the territories. I just filed a petition for a writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court over this very matter. And we'll talk about that later. In the district courts are only admiralty and equity jurisdiction, and they are in the District of Columbia. That's correct. So then that means that there's two jurisdictions in Texas or in any state. There's a lawful state and there's a territory. And if you're in these DC Satanist jurisdiction, if they can fabricate evidence that you're one of the U.S. citizen slaves, then you don't get an Article 3 court. You get a military dictatorship. You get a kangaroo court. It's bought and paid for, and it's prejudged from the beginning. All process of this court issues in the name of the President of the United States. That's the rules of the Supreme Court, people. And what that's saying, if all process of the Supreme Court's in the name of the President, then there's no separation of powers. And that means that the Supreme Court, if you follow the rules, then you're under, it's a District of Columbia Territorial Court. Now, that doesn't mean that your Supreme Court doesn't exist. But you have to access it. You have to tell them that. And that's in my petition as well. This is a DC code, which was approved March 3rd, 1901, and where it says the legal estate to be an assesticate use, okay, which is assesticate trust, is what these DC pigs and Azle are addressing in their paperwork. They're addressing a sesticate trust. That's why it's spelled in all block capital letters. It's a fictitious entity. A citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as co-trustee and co-beneficiary of the public charitable trust. The constructive sesticate trust of the U.S. under 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of the U.S. and U.S. Inc., and that's congressional record. Taxpayers of sesticate trust having sufficient interest in preventing the abuse of the trust to be recognized in the field of this court's prerogative jurisdiction. So again, that's anybody that's a U.S. citizen it's a sesticate trust. No living soul is a U.S. citizen. Okay, they know it. They're fabricating evidence. They want to assault me with one of their DC codes. A U.S. citizen has no rights except what are granted by Congress. This is, again, a federal court case. The only absolute and unqualified right of a U.S. citizen is to reside within the territorial boundaries of the United States. And this is DC codes again. And be it further enacted that in interpretation and construction of said code, the following rules shall be observed, namely, third, this is right in the very beginning of the DC code, the word person shall be held to apply to partnerships and corporations. It's fictitious entities, people. Chapter 854 and an act is the same as the DC code again. The judicial power in the district shall continue as at present to be vested in first inferior courts, namely justice of the peace and the police court. Well, that's what these Azle pigs are assaulting me with, is their police court and second superior courts. But you got to understand that the superior courts are still kangaroo courts, okay? They may have judges that could potentially operate in their Article 3 capacity, but not as long as they're in D.C. and the territories. If they went into one of the states, then they might be able to operate in their Article 3 capacity, but not in D.C. and the territories. An act to establish a code of law. Again, this is DC Code Constitution. Now shall continue to be a police court in their DC territory. This is the prosecutions in the police court shall be on information by the liar, the proper prosecuting officer, the liar, and again, that's DC Code. More DC Code stuff, that in addition to the jurisdiction conferred by the preceding section, plenary jurisdiction, that's military dictatorship, people, is hereby given to court holding special term to hear and determine all questions relative to the execution of any and all wills. Well, what do you think a sesticate trust is, people? That's some person that is dead. And so it's involving a will. Sesticate trust. The legal estate to be in necessity use, okay? And more DC code stuff. What can be set off? Mutual debts and claims in the contract between parties to a common law action. Okay, so they talk about common law, but it's not real common law. It's common law with their military dictatorship, where the clerk is bought and paid for. He's masquerading as a judge. He's a whore. This is more DC code. A citation upon filing of a petition for approbate of a will. Okay, remember, sesticate trust. A citation will be issued. Well, that's what these DC Satanist pigs and Azle issued, was a citation. And then it says if the said collector shall neglect or refuse, the citation stuff is all through the DC code, people. The said collector shall neglect or refuse to deliver over the property and estate to the executor of the court made by citation. More DC code stuff. Citation to owners, the said court holding a district court of the United States, and it's talking about citations, marshal fees that for the service of any citation. So the marshals collect a fee for service of citations. And KPS, okay, this is all about KPS and citations and the DC code. An act to establish a code of law in the District of Columbia, and they're talking about non-resident infant. They're talking about citations again. These Satanist pigs presume that you're one of their corporate slaves under their martial law jurisdiction. See the martial laws here video. And then the pig is a wordum. A wordism, I should say, which means it's a word that is actually kind of like it's an acronym, but it's called a wordism because it's also used as a word. And so a pig is persons in government who intend to perjure their oath. These Satanist pigs drag you into their kangaroo court. See the Azle Pigs in Texas video, parts 1 and 2. The Satanist clerk masquerading as a judge holds his show trial and issues a void judgment that is full of brutum fulmen. And this is brutum fulmen, is an empty noise, an empty threat, a judgment void upon its face, which is in legal effect no judgment at all, and by which no rights are divested, and from which none could be obtained, and neither binds nor bars anyone. And that's Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. International law rule, adopted for areas under federal legislative jurisdiction. Okay, well, think about it. If U.S. citizens are in Texas, well, then they fall under this international law rule because it federalizes state civil law. It's federal jurisdiction because the federal courts apply to anybody that's a U.S. citizen. And the rule serves to federalize not only the statutory, but the common law of a state. So that means that the Texas Transportation Code is really a federal law. State and federal venue discussed. Civil laws are in an area of exclusive federal jurisdiction or federal law, notwithstanding their derivation from state laws. And a cause arising under such laws may be brought in or removed to the federal district court under sections 24 or 28 of the former judicial code, now sections 1331 and 1441 of Title 28. Giving jurisdiction to such courts and civil actions arising under the laws, so-called laws of the United States, because the state laws are actually federal laws. And that's taken from a couple books that are available called Jurisdiction Over Federal Areas Within the States, a report of the Interdepartmental Committee for the Study of Jurisdiction Over Federal Areas Within the State, Part 2, a text of the law of the legislative jurisdiction submitted to the Attorney General and transmitted to the President in June 1957, and that's on page 158 through 165. These Satanists are assaulting me with their bill of attainder. See the Pigs in Azle, Texas video, parts 1 and 2. These Azle Satanists are all U.S. citizens operating under their state statutes that are actually federal statutes. Gee, that sounds like some fraud going on. The Texas Transportation Code is a subdivision of the U.S. Transportation Code, Title 49. Texas Government Code is a subdivision of the Title 4 of the United States Code. And the clerk masquerading as a judge, the whore, is operating under the Texas Government Code, and they're assaulting me with their Title 49 United States Transportation Code. They completely ignored everything I served them. They told me how much extortion they wanted to buy them off. It was obviously an offer of contract under their Satanic Law Merchant. And so I rejected again their Satanic offer of contract. And that's what it says there. But the text of it is right here. And it's date received, 9th day of April, 2016. I, by declaration of a man and declared living American sovereign, standing with the treaty law of God, to accept your offer for value, and for the following reasons I'm returning your offer rejected for discharge and closure. You brought United States corporate law with color outside your jurisdiction without an international treaty with my republic state, and you have no jurisdiction on the land You falsely accuse me of being a citizen of the United States. You're trespassing and criminally attempting to convert corporate statutes with color into lawful criminal codes without chartered, regulatory, and delegated jurisdictional authority. And this is all done in red ink because that's what living souls use. You're not registered or chartered for conducting business in Texas by my republic state. You fail to state a lawful claim upon which relief can be granted, all of which is sealed in red ink on the land of Texas and submitted pursuant to locus sigilli under your Rule 201 of your rules of evidence under the penalty of perjury pursuant to your 28 U.S.C. 1746-1 without the United States. It is dated the 10th day of April this year in April 2016. And so, that's essentially what I sent them back. And the date received and the date rejected needs to be within 3 days of each other. That's pursuant to their fictitious color of law regulation Z, truth in lending. I like registered mail because it's under lock and key with a chain of custody until it's delivered. But you can use certified mail. You need some proof of service. These Azle pigs tend to assault you with their DC codes. That's exactly what this is proof of. These Satanists cannot speak the truth. Okay, remember, they're Satanists. They cannot speak the truth. This is one of the hallmarks of Satanism, which is lies, half-truths, fraud, and deception. They criminally convert your appellation. They criminally convert your postal address. They present the judge as neutral and unbiased when he's actually a bought and paid for clerk. See the Pigs in Azle, Texas videos 1 and 2. Everything they do is a lie. Color signifies a probable plea, but which is in fact false. And that's Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835. They lie in wait for you to say the wrong thing so they can justify selling you into slavery. And this is Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. Give color to admit either expressly or implied by silence that the opponent's allegations appear to be meritorious. In common law pleading, a defendant plea of confession and avoidance had to give color to the plaintiff's allegation in the complaint, or the plea would be fatally defective. So they assault you with their DC codes, and if you give them jurisdiction, they just railroad you. That's exactly what's going on. The key is don't give them jurisdiction. You're of the father, the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he's a liar and the father of it. And that's John 8 and 44. Okay, these people are Satanists, but the fearful and the unbelieving and the abominable and the murderers and the sorcerers and the idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. That's Revelations 21 and 8. But where the Constitution has once been formally extended by Congress to the territories, neither Congress nor the territorial legislature can enact laws inconsistent therewith. And that's Downs versus Bidwell, Supreme Court again. These Satanists do not have a shred of authority. It's completely unconstitutional, and that's why they have to fabricate evidence of their slave to move ahead. And it never became a law and was much in nullity as if it had been an act or declaration of unauthorized assemblage of individuals. It's not a law. It's an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties. Affords no protection. It creates no office. It is in legal contradiction, as inoperative as though it had never been passed. An unconstitutional law is void. It is as no law. An offense created by it is not a crime. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. These Satanists are nothing more than a bunch of thieves. State citizens are the only ones living under free government whose rights are incapable of impairment by legislation or judicial decision. State citizenship is a vested substantial property right, and the state has no power to divest or impair these rights. A state cannot diminish the rights of the people. They haven't got a shred of authority. They're nothing but a bunch of thieves. And this is 1 Peter 3 and 19, by which he also he went and preached the spirits in prison. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones. That's these Satanist pigs in Azle, Texas, among others, that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and they shall be shut up in the prison. And after many days shall they be visited. Well, gee, that sounds like hell. That's Isaiah 24, 21 to 22. These Azle Satanist pigs are operating as revenue officers under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. See Pigs in Azle, Texas video 1. These Azle Satanist pigs are assaulting me with their unconstitutional satanic uniform commercial code, which is governed by their Unidroit Treaty and their United Nations Satanist bankster thief handlers. See Unidroit video and Pigs in Azle, Texas video parts 1 and 2. All of which is the objective of assaulting me with one of their satanic law merchant so-called contracts. Brown, Volume 2, page 100, lays down the rule in these terms. The general rule, however, is at present that the Admiralty acts only in rem, and that no person can be subject to that jurisdiction except by his consent expressed by his entering into a stipulation. It's a contract. That's U.S. Supreme Court. That's an old case. Rebels reports, page 500, quoted by Brown, has expressly said that without a stipulation, the Admiralty has no jurisdiction all over the person. And that's Ramsey versus Allegory. Oh, this is the same case. It is impossible to prove jurisdiction exists absent a substantial nexus with the state, such as a voluntary subscription to a license. All jurisdictional facts supporting the claim of supposed jurisdiction exists must appear on the record of the court. That's, again, U.S. Supreme Court. Their so-called court of record is still an Admiralty jurisdiction. It's still a plenary jurisdiction. It's still a kangaroo court. It's still based on a statute, dealing with a statute. The so-called judge is still a clerk masquerading as a judge. See the Pigs in Azle, Texas video page numbers 1 and 2. It's still a territorial court, and it's more fraud that these Satanists are perpetrated by these DC Satanists. These Satanist pigs in Azle are making business for their clerk masquerading as a judge. This has nothing to do with justice and has everything to do with extortion and racketeering. These Satanist pigs know exactly what they're doing. I have nothing but contempt for these satanic Azle pigs and their kangaroo court and their void judgment and their clerk masquerading as a judge. They obviously intend to be next. And this is dated, this is a letter from the clerk of the Supreme Court of the United States, dated March 29, 2016. What's that, about maybe 2 weeks ago at the most? And it says, the petition for a writ of certiorari has, in the above entitled case, has been placed on the docket. And here's the file number. So these Satanist pigs, this is the 4th time I've been to the Supreme Court. These Satanist pigs want to be next. Judgment Day. Heavens, you Satanist pig. I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. Rick Pippins, he's the chief pig. I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. Steve Stutzman, he's Heaven's boss. I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. Andrew Vogel, he's the liar. I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. Hudman, he's the clerk masquerading as a judge. I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. Alan Brundrett, he's the ringleader. He's the mayor, the CEO of their corporation. He's the one of the ones I'm going after. I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. David McClure, I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day. These are all board members. William Chambers, I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. These are all officers, or I should say, they're on the board of directors for their criminal corporation. Bill Jones, another director member. I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. Paul Crabtree, I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. Raoul Rothenberger, I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. Lee Barrett, I shake the dust of the earth, mop my feet against you, and we'll be talking about this on Judgment Day, Satanist. But if the watchmen see the sword come and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, the sword come and take any person from among them, he's taken away in his iniquity. But his blood will I require at the watchman's hand. That's in Ezekiel 33 and 6. And so This is making sure that I am not held accountable for these Satanists. But now that you've watched this video, you need to spread the word, or you might be. I don't know. I can't really say because I'm not God. But I would be concerned unless, you need to spread the word and do everything you can. Either you're part of the problem, you're part of the solution. You're not a watchman. Circulate this video far and wide. Bankster Thieves, other videos, 1, 2, and 3. Churchianity series, bankrupt corporate so-called governments, bar members, 1, 2, and 3 now. Unidroit video, these are all other videos that are under my profile. Martial laws here, quasi-contracts and Roman civil law, de facto courts. All courts are ecclesiastical courts. DC courts in Texas, jurisdiction. All of these videos are available. You should be watching them if you want to find out what's going on and protect yourself and spread the word. Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administrating-Your-Public-Servants. I have YouTube videos that are videos of private information shares that show these and other court citations that are available for donation. Donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept IOUs, Federal Reserve notes, PayPal guest checks, money orders, etc. Send me an email for particulars. And then my contact information, my blog is at sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. And I have a website, www.sovereigntyinternational.fyi. And then there's also my email contact. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. And I hope you have a real nice day.